Hello, and welcome again to Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. Today is September 21st, 2018. We're in sunny, warm Sacramento, California. I'm here again with Leon Lee and Eddie Cervantes. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Steve. How about you, Leon?
I'm doing great. I had a chance to play in a golf tournament yesterday with a bunch of celebrities, some ex baseball players, big name guy like Raleigh Fingers and Kenny Lofton, and a couple of NBA guys and NFL guys, and it's funny when we get here again, Eddie and Steve. I love getting together with you guys and talking baseball, especially. But the topic that we were talking yesterday was pretty interesting because Kenny Lofton, had a great major league career and probably is going to end up on a Hall of Fame ballot if he's not already. But just talking about the change in the game he says this is what he said, the last All-Star game they said was the greatest one ever because they had 10 home runs and 25 strikeouts. And it kind of led to a great conversation talking to these guys and Raleigh Fingers, who is a Hall of Famer, and something that we talk about on our podcast, and we may wear it out, but I still think it's a really interesting conversation to talk about what these guys are thinking and what ball players are thinking around the country, because it's almost like a revolution. Us old guys are trying to get our game back, and those new guys in the suit and ties are trying to take it away from us.
That's good. Well, talking about that All-Star game real quickly they talk about those 10 home runs and how great that game was. What they fail to recognize is they talk about the fact that all these home runs are being hit during the season, and there's home runs or strikeouts. Batting averages are low, and so their batting averages are low because they say the pitching is so good. Well, if the pitching is so good, you got all these all-star pitchers in the all-star game, and they're giving up 10 home runs, so how great could it be?
How great can they be? And it used to be that was just one of the cardinal sins is giving up the home run.
Right.
And nowadays it seems to be okay, but to me the most disturbing thing is seeing the results of conversations like launch angle and a lot of these analytics that they're teaching hitters. When they see the strikeouts coming to that level, to me it's disturbing because historically, and I will say this, the game, and people, we talk about old school and new school. Well, I'll fight for old school because old school's been around a whole lot longer than new school, and you can't tell me that launch angle makes that big of a difference in changing hitters, because Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle, they launched a lot of balls. They had no idea what launch angle was. When you use the terminology, we launched that one. I hit a lot of home runs. I launched them, but I wasn't up there trying to launch them. I was trying to put the ball in play.
I hit that one good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you needed to say.
And we're thinking line drives, but sometimes I tell young hitters, well, if you miss it a little bit and you get a higher trajectory, it may go out of the ballpark. So you almost look at a home run as being a mistake rather than something that you're going to the plate trying to do. And like Kenny Lofton said yesterday, you got young players going up there trying to hit home runs, and we all know factually, no matter old school or new school, you just simply can't go to the plate trying to hit a home run and be successful at it.
Well, that's why the batting averages are so low.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. And I agree. Just that it's an ongoing conversation. And when you talk to a guy like Raleigh Fingers, and he brought up names like Vida Blue. Vida Blue was an overpowering fastball pitcher, but Vida Blue took a lot of pride in pitching complete games. And nowadays, you get guys, they say they throw harder, but there's no one out there nowadays that can throw a complete game.
No.
And, because of analytics and because of pitch counts. And, they say, well, down, and you got your specialized guys who's a starter, and you got your long relief, you got your setup, and you got your closer. And now you're telling pitchers that you can't pitch more than one inning, or you can't pitch more than 2 innings. And position players are being judged more by analytics than talent. So to me, it's a kind of a disgrace to see guys that are major league superstars that aren't in the game because they're not analytic guys.
Right.
You know, people like Kenny Lofton and Raleigh Fingers should be on their knees begging these guys to be in the game, but they're out playing in charities golf tournaments because they can't get back in Major League Baseball.
So what else did they have to say about maybe how to return the game to the way they used to play?
Well, you know, it's funny because Raleigh, he made a statement. He goes, they talk about speeding the game up. That's a big issue. And they're trying to use analytics to speed the game up. But he goes, well, instant replay, the umpires are over there with microphones on, listening to information from New York, which they're not even involved in the game. And the games are actually taking longer because of things like that, where, you know, the managers aren't having that opportunity to come out and argue calls, because when an umpire, like this is what we were talking about last night, there's a lot of times when an umpire can have a discussion with a manager over a call and actually have an impact on how he makes the next call.
Yeah.
You know, based on saying, well, in this case, you made a call like this, what common sense would tell you. For example, when you're a shortstop, Eddie, or second base on a double play, you weren't always in full contact with the bag, but you were also in control of the throw. So in order to stay away from a base runner coming into you, you know, there were times when you might have been a half an inch off the bag to make the throw, but nowadays instant replay you get slammed for that.
Maybe, yeah. The timing. It was a timing thing where you're trying to time when that ball is hitting your glove as you're reaching for it or stepping towards it, and pulling your pivot foot off of the base at the same time. So there was a timing element, and there may have been, yeah, depending. But usually, on the good throws, it was just automatic. It was just something you knew you were there. You know, when there was plenty of time, it wasn't an issue. The only thing is, and we've talked about this, I think, is when, like on the replays of slides and tag plays at the bases, when the foot comes off, whatever. Well, if it's a bad throw for a fielder, if it's a bad throw and it pulls him off, okay, then granted, then you're going to, you know, maybe make a safe call because he was receiving a bad throw. His foot came off because of that reason, but not just because a good throw, you're just kind of, your timing is just a little quick as opposed to really cheating. And so, yeah.
But I mean, we use the term cheating, but I think an umpire, in common sense, if a guy makes a bad throw to you, either any bag, whatever, and the fielder has to make an abnormal move in order to make the play, and there's a question whether you come off the bag, I could understand an umpire giving the benefit of the doubt to the runner. That's the way it was in the old day. Make a better throw, you'll get the call.
Right.
You know, you don't need instant replay in that case. If there's a questionable call, he'll get the guy who made the bad throw won't get the call.
Right.
You know, so there's a high throw to second base from a catcher, and the guy jumps up in the air to make the catch and makes a sweeping downward throw, and the guy makes a good slide into the bag. Most of the time, the umpire would call him safe on general principles. Make a better throw, you'll get the call.
Right.
But now with instant replay, he may have just brushed a guy, and the guy who made the bad throw will get rewarded. So to me, there's a big difference in the nature of the game and how the game is played, because when you go back to amateur ball, and the kids and I still think kids want to learn the old school way, if you want to put it that way. I think the kids want to be able to think for themselves and see the game and react to what they see, react to what they feel, rather than having a coach telling them every aspect of the game. So as you're teaching these young kids, you know, you want to be able to teach them how to see and react regardless of what the result is going to be. You know, let the umpire make the call. Don't teach them a mechanical way of doing something based on the advent of all the analytics that are going forward.
I was watching a game about a week ago. I'm not even going to mention the teams, it doesn't matter, but I think we discussed this. I had right-handed hitter, and there's a shift. second baseman is on the left field side of second base, but not by much. And there's a short pop-up out into short right field. And he takes, and they have the camera on that second baseman, and he takes, I swear, he takes about 2 steps, and he's not even, he may be at that point, maybe even with home plate, pitcher's mound, second base, center field, just straight up. He gets that far, and he stops. And the center fielder and the right fielder come converging in, and obviously they didn't communicate very well, and they both stopped at the last second, and the ball falls in. They pick it up, throw it in. The runner's standing on second, and after they did a replay, they showed the outfielders after they had thrown it in. The camera goes to the outfielders, and they're pulling out a card out of their back pocket.
Oh my God.
And I've heard that, I thought they were trying to figure out, well, whose ball it should have been, when I've been told that now they're getting ready. They just put that play behind them, and they're thinking about the next hitter, where they're supposed to play them. So I heard that's the cards they're using now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now-
Every outfielder has a positioning card for all the other opposing players.
And this is something we've, and it always seems, Leon, that we always come back to how the game is played in these discussions, and how we feel the game is changing, not for the good. And man, for you to have conversations with all these ex-big leaguers of sound mind still, they're not that old.
Right.
And, and they have the same comments.
Yes.
The same comments. Smoltz. John Smoltz. He broadcasts for ESPN, I think, games or MLB. And he's a vocal broadcaster. Most broadcasters are afraid to say anything negative about the decision making that's going on during the games. They always seem to be making excuses. Smoltz, he doesn't hold back. And he talks like he was talking the other night about how he wished he was back in the game. This is what I'd be doing if I was back in the game now.
Yes.
He says, and I don't think what some of the things that are going on is good for baseball.
I don't think so.
That.
I really don't. I agree with you, Eddie, because the guys are pulling out cards, and you think, well, in travel ball or amateur ball, they're teaching that. Thank God it doesn't happen in the big leagues, and it is happening in the big leagues.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're seeing way more mistakes. I haven't seen many outfielders that can accurately throw a runner out at the plate, especially the most important run. The most important plate you got to protect is home plate. So all your defensive strategies are always based on trying to keep that runner from scoring.
Yeah.
But you have the positioning, but you don't have the arm to throw a guy out. They don't take in and outs.
Yeah, I wonder if those cards have the full situation on them. What pitcher's on the mound? What are the weather conditions? What are the field conditions? What's the score? What inning? What are all these things that you have to calculate when you're thinking about a situation
Today, yeah.
Right now, and they're looking at a card. Does that card have all of that today?
It couldn't possibly. Yeah. Now, I personally don't know all the information they put, but I know the organizations are hiring these defensive coordinators, and they have these shifts going on. And to me, it's a little bit humorous in a way, because you're telling me that Eddie Cervantes, playing shortstop, pulled 3 balls in a row 2 weeks ago, so we're going to put a shift on him today. 2 weeks later, it's a whole different situation. He may be hitting the ball the other way today. So, I mean, you're getting paper information. Even when I managed in Japan, we had advanced scouts just like they do over here. I get information. I would look at it. I'm not going to turn my back on information that scouts gave. That's their job. They do their job. But you always got to remember, today is today. The matchup is different. And also, I have my own instincts and my gut feeling based on who the opponent is, what they're trying to do. My job is to know more about what they're trying to do than my players are. So I want to give players information on what's going on today.
Yeah,
not 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, now let me tie that back into what you were saying about coaching amateurs or coaching at the youth level. You're saying if you coach them that way, they seem to be more receptive to that?
Yes. And when you treat a young player, you'd be amazed at a 13 and 14-year-old that has a passion for the game. Every kid doesn't have that same passion, so they really don't mind a coach telling them what to do. I just need to get through the day anyway. I don't have any aspirations, but when you see those kids that have some talent and they have a real passion, you have to allow them to think for themselves. That's the fulfillment. They can go home at night and they can sleep better because they don't have to go home and say, man, I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to take that extra base. I saw that outfielder didn't have a great arm. You know, I knew he was slow going to his left, but I just simply couldn't do it because the coach would get mad at me. And for a really good player, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So you have to have the ability to take those kids aside and say, you know what today, son? You go out and play the game. Go play the game, because even if something doesn't work out, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it didn't work today, but keep working on it because you want to make your game better. That when you recognize, like Ricky Henderson always said, he took the extra base based on what he saw and what he felt, not what a coach told him. Mm-hmm. The only way to me is how when Eddie used to play infield, nobody told him where to go play. He just had instincts. He knew to shave a guy over a little left or a little right. He could see how that angle of the bat was going at that day. So that's, to me, is how you teach players. Let them, allow them. It may not work that day, but that doesn't mean it's wrong.
It's that learning experience, Leon.
Exactly.
It's the learning experience that means more to the individual. And what does that create? And we talk about it all the time. It creates more fun for the player. Mm-hmm. More fun for the player.
Oh, my God.
You give me any teacher in high school, any teacher teaching whether biology, a language, math, English, and are you going to tell me those kids, when they're in there doing a lesson that they're supposed to be doing, she's going to walk around and she's going to tell them how to do it, or he is going to tell them how to do it and what they should be doing? No. They tell them this is what the task, so do it. That's the learning process. And figure it out. Exactly. So that is the learning process, and it's no different from any sport, and especially what we're talking about, baseball, is that it makes it more fun if you and you have more satisfaction if you figure it out yourself. You're out there figuring it out. You're learning the game. You're using your head, and that's what it boils down to.
It does. I mean, when a kid goes through all the pains, the frustrations, the aches, the anticipations, not knowing what's going to happen next in their own mind, they're not sure. They got butterflies. I mean, we went through all that.
Oh yeah.
We got to play with a sore leg. I mean, we got a big old giant bruise on our hip the last time we slid, and we got another one coming up. Let that kid deal with those emotions, because now the satisfaction of doing something good even means more. Yeah, because they went through the adversities of the game and did it, not just sit there and wait to be told something. Yeah. I just can't even imagine that being fun.
How about talking about that slide and you get a strawberry on one side?
Right, strawberry.
Nowadays I could see kids coming out because, Coach, I can't slide. I got a strawberry.
Exactly.
What did we do? We slid on the other side.
On the other side.
We learned how to slide both sides.
Exactly.
So.
And then now, basically kids are not learning to compete in that area. It's a participation sport. They don't get cut. So now you see it going in the big leagues, and you said it just now, Eddie. The announcers are making excuses for these players.
Yeah.
The same way parents are making excuses for players at the amateur level. So the game is. I think we have to back up to these kids and teach them to be accountable for their own games. Be accountable for not taking the garbage out. Be accountable for getting their homework done. Being accountable for being able to recognize something, to take the extra base, not come back in and say, well, the coach told me not to run. Right. Or if I would have got thrown out, the coach got mad at me.
Yeah.
That's a life experience.
These are
on the
life
field.
lessons.
Those are life lessons, and it's really important. It's a great conversation. I don't particularly care if we talk about it every night. I think we ought to have a big panel. I think we're at war.
Yeah. Why should baseball and coaching baseball, like Eddie brought up, and teaching any other subject, be any different in any other aspect of life? I mean, I can tell you from my corporate experience that if you're not able to figure out something for yourself, you're going to get left behind.
That's right.
So it's the same way on the baseball field.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what makes the game beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what makes the game exciting, the not knowing part.
Right.
Sure, because
It's
all the variables are always constantly changing.
Exactly right.
It's the human experience.
Day by day.
Yeah.
The human experience, and then we get back to they're taking out that human experience,
That's
they're taking
right.
that out of the game, and
That's
we want
right.
to bring that back.
We really want to bring it back. We're going to keep talking about it. I mean, even the umpires, and Eddie was an umpire for a lot of years. I spoke with a current umpire even at the golf tournament yesterday, and it's the same argument because I think umpires work just as hard as anybody else. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're never going to get every call agreeable to everybody in the ballpark. Every single close play they make, there's a whole bunch of people out there, especially if it's that parent's son, who may be out. That umpire's a bum.
Well, it seems like they're trying to get to an antiseptic game where everything is just perfect.
Right.
No, nothing is missed, but they're doing it all in the aspect of timing and calls on the field by umpires when they're not going to the players and making them better.
Exactly.
They may be a little bigger and they may be stronger than players of past, but up in the head, we've talked about it, up in the head, they're not getting it. They're not getting the game in their head because, like you said, the coaches in the dugout, they're controlling it. It's like they got to have these high school and college coaches, they have to have their stamp on the game.
Right.
This is, how many times have you heard this? Well, that's not the way we do it at,
Right,
this isn't Warrior baseball, or this isn't, we do it this way.
Exactly.
Do what this way? It's baseball.
It's baseball.
It's baseball.
And what they're doing, Eddie, is that they're making the critical decision for the player when the player should be learning how to make critical decisions.
Exactly.
And they're taking that power away from them, the ability to make critical decisions on the ball field. Yeah. Because instant replay, you're saying we want to get it right in a game that's not supposed to be right.
Right. Exactly.
It's not right and wrong. There's consequences.
Yeah.
You do things the same way every day, 7 days in a row. They're going to turn out different 4 out of those 7 days. So what those 4 days is right, and the other 3 days is wrong.
Right.
And the exact same thing happens. I mean, you see something different in this game every time you watch one. Doesn't say it's right or wrong. It's just consequences.
Right.
And you're trying to teach players, don't think about the results. You have no control over results. You can only think about the process.
Yeah.
But we're building the game up on results.
Yeah.
On what's right and wrong. And there is no right and wrong.
Yeah. So again, we're probably fighting the big business of baseball. The big money business.
Big money business, and you're paying a lot of guys that never got hit in the head with a fastball a lot of money to make these analytical changes and say, we're going to put a shift on Bryce Harper. I have to, not to criticize Bryce Harper. I think he's a great ball player. I just don't think that the shift should cause him to hit 215. In our
he's up to about 250 now, I think.
Yeah,
is he?
yeah. He's had a good second half.
Okay, all right. Well, he's up to 250. I mean, that's okay.
But that's not an all-star. That's not an all-star average.
No, it's not an all-star average, and it's not a $400 million. The projections that he's going to make is $400 to $500 million. In our day, we hit 250, we got released. Yeah. But
well, now, you talk about getting back to the timing thing and how to speed up the game, and like what you said, Raleigh Figures mentioned the idea of cutting out the instant replay. Well, or the instant or the review of plays. Well, one of the things that they have done is they've controlled the amount of visits, okay? And we've talked about that. And that's probably a good thing. Managers are probably making the adjustment, and that's okay. But there was a broadcaster the other night saying they were talking about that, and they said, yeah, they're doing a good job with it, and the games are going a little bit quicker because of that. Of course, that remains to be seen. But in the same breath, he's going, but it's just a matter of time before they'll go to also the 20-second pitch clock.
Pitch clock.
Here they are. These guys it was so matter of fact. It's like they're giving in. They're conceding the fact that that's what is needed instead of looking at the problem and they're just going through abstract solutions instead of what the problem is and tackling that problem.
But I for the life of me, and I go back and I go even to right now, even to the near past, when you looked at players like Tom Glavine and Greg Maddox and Smokes and those guys, and go back to the Marechells and the Gibson and the Drysdales, is that in order for them to be dominating pitchers, they had to control the tempo of the game. So, but also in those days, pitchers were taught to command 3 pitches. Number one, you had to command your fastball. And then you had to command one or the other breaking ball, either a slider or a curveball. Most pitchers didn't throw both. And then you had a changeup. And the tempo of the game, Bob Gibson, I don't think ever in history pitched a 3-hour game, because they were taught, and it was mandatory, to pitch ahead, to throw strikes, stay around the zone. And now you see pitchers that'll get 2 strikes on a hitter, and the next thing you know, it's automatically full count.
Yeah.
So if you want to really speed the game up on the field, leave the technology out and teach pitchers how to pitch ahead in the count.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pitch ahead in the count, throw strikes.
Yeah.
You can't fix everything with numbers.
Exactly. You can't fix it. Let the game be the game. But also, if a game happens to go 3 hours and 10 minutes, whoopee, you sell more hot dogs.
Yeah,
you sell a few more, drinks.
I think yesterday was an anniversary of a game that Sandy Koufax pitched. Complete game, 13 innings, throw 205 pitches, and I bet that game was probably still under 3 hours.
Exactly right. No question about it. They get on the mound and go. Get on the mound and go.
Yeah.
Make the hitter call timeout if you're not set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I've said that when I was doing radio for the Rivercast. The pitcher that controls the tempo of the game and don't let the hitters get too comfortable, they don't need that 20-second clock.
And
just get on the mound and go.
And likewise, the hitter's got to disrupt that pitcher's rhythm.
Thank you very much.
If he gets working too quick of a pace, then everyone's okay, step out.
Step out.
But that's the fun of the game.
The fun of the game.
That's fun.
That's it.
The cat and mouth, the chess match.
That's where the fans get into it.
When I'm a fan looking at the stands, I'm watching all that. I'm thinking, oh, here's the chess match. What's going on in their heads?
Exactly.
That's fun.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was a couple of games, and I read about one the other day. A game was decided by, you may have been the one who told me, Steve, the batter did not get in the batter's box quick enough with 2 strikes, and the umpire called him out.
Yeah.
With men on base late in the game, and they lost the game because he didn't get in the batter's box fast enough.
Yeah.
To me, that is atrocious.
You gotta let the game play out.
Let the game play out.
Yeah.
How about Kenny? Did Kenny, by any chance at the golf tournament, did he mention anything about the lack of base stealers?
He did, and now I'm glad you brought that up, because we're going to run on time here. But he says that the stolen base is such a big part of the game, because not only is it exciting, it changes the whole outlook of the game. It's entertaining, and it changes the outlook of how pitchers pitch.
Sometimes they're not even making throws.
No.
Yeah.
It's like high school.
Right.
High school, they don't make throws sometimes.
They don't even make throws.
And I just saw a big league game, and they didn't throw it down.
They didn't throw it down
because there was a runner on third.
And I always say, make something happen.
They didn't have a first and third play set up.
Yeah,
that's the old Little League way. Don't throw it down, the runner might score.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on. But, it's a thing, and, like tonight when, we were going to have one or the other amateur player. We had a couple of high school. One kid, Jack Philby, was heading down to UCLA today. He had a great career at McClatchy and is getting ready to start out at UCLA. And then we had Ryan Stafford, who's a starting catcher on the varsity team at Folsom's, going to join us next week. And then we're going to have some guys, some high school kids, because I think it's good information to the listeners to hear some of the high school kids and how they think, and we can quiz them a little bit and put a little pressure on them a little bit. But
that'd be a good
to let them know,
perspective.
yeah, it would be, and not be afraid to say something because somebody gets angry at them or whatever. We have to teach the kids to learn how to be able to really express themselves, without fear of
Making a mistake.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that'd be a good perspective, a good lens to see through.
It's a good story, and as we keep going, we're going to share some. We'll have some other Major League guys on here, too, to talk. But I think it's a big topic. I think we ought to keep talking about it. I know there's some lessons to be learned, and we'll talk about some hitting things and fielding and fundamentals and mechanics and all that. But I like to be able to share some ideas, and the differences of the game now is a big issue. And I think it's showing up in the fans that are staying away from ballparks now.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
It is, and we really want to do some things to stop that trend.
And I don't think I've heard an interview from one of the older retired players that likes the way the game is being played today versus the way it was played when they were playing.
I think it's across the board. It's really across the board. Now, you will get some from people that are ex-players that are now front office personnel that are protecting jobs a little bit, and I don't blame them. I really don't. They kind of buy in, because some conversations I have with some guys, they say, there's a place for the information sometime. Even for scouts, they have different technology and how they get in their reports now. They have to learn the analytic part of it, even though they still will go back and report based on what they see and how they feel and their experience in baseball. But we have to admit, analytics are a part of the game now. But you have to learn where to put it. It can't dictate how a game is played. It's just information after a game is played, and you can word it any way you want to.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in reading what happened after. If a home run went over the fence, I love the home run. I don't care how fast it went out. It's good information, fun information, but it shouldn't impact the game.
No, not at all.
Right.
Well, I think we probably wanted to wrap this one up, but it's a good conversation, like you guys said, and we'll talk about it some more in a future podcast. Let me remind everyone of the podcast website, which is talkingbaseballwithleonlee.podbean.com. And, of course, hopefully you will contact us at talkingbaseballwithleonlee@gmail.com. Please send us any emails or comments. And also now you can find us on YouTube just by searching for Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. And we'll talk to you all again soon.